Hello, and welcome to another fully live Q&A episode of Hacking with Friends. My name is Cody Kinsey. I am a security researcher at Varonis, and today we are joined by who you may know as the best cryptozoology expert within 5 miles. We really went all out today to make sure you got... I'm sorry.
I feel like that's an order of magnitude off.
There's a Squatch guy that really knows his stuff.
It's within half a mile.
Is he that close?
No, I'm the best cryptozoology person within half a mile.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, there is that other Bigfoot lady that's...
Yeah, it's like right down the block, you know.
Yeah. So we have one of the best cryptozoology experts at your disposal here. If you have any questions about cryptozoology, definitely point them Michael's way. Not getting a lot of love on the stream, but if you've got hacking questions, I am here today to answer them. Well, we usually do this every other week, but honestly, this is my favorite stream because you guys have been getting continually better and better questions every time we do it. So we decided to go ahead and do it again this week, and we really appreciate everyone in the stream. So if you want to have your question answered, you can do one of two things. You can either shout it out in the comments right now while we are live, or of course, you can leave it on the YouTube channel. That's SecurityFWD. If you leave that in any of our videos, we will go through and basically pick these questions and we will answer them throughout the stream to make sure you get yours answered. So again, if you have any questions live, feel free to shout them out in the chat. But otherwise, I guess let's go ahead and get started.
All right. So the...
Oh, also, sorry, incoming news. Victor has let us know that birds are not real.
I can confirm.
They're just
3D printed eagles.
No, they're government surveillance drones.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're like 3D printed stuff. Anyway, okay. Sorry for the dumb question. First of all, this is on the video on the ESP honeypot. But why use Canary? No feature can detect the IP and the triggering event on the ESP itself.
Okay, so this was for the ESP8266 router honeypot. So basically, you set this up so that it connects back to your actual Wi-Fi network, and it provides an internet connection on a separate honeypot Wi-Fi network. And if anybody joins it, they will also find a FTP server open, and if they attempt to join that, then boom, you'll be able to send an alert out and let basically yourself know via email that somebody's poking around where they shouldn't be. Now, one way you can do this is create like an open Wi-Fi network and just see if there's anybody out there trying to break in and sniff around for stuff. Or if you want to, you can set a bad Wi-Fi password and then just see if anyone is cracking Wi-Fi around you and kind of reward them with a pretty terrible experience as well, because this is a very slow router, but it will ping and it will definitely get internet. You can watch videos on it, albeit kind of slowly. But we were getting about like 5 up, 5 down, right?
On a good day.
Yeah.
I recall more like 1.
Yeah, so a lot of the questions are about this project. So again, you're just taking a little ESP8266 based device like this and turning it into a Wi-Fi honeypot. So the attacker's like, wow, look at this like easily accessible Wi-Fi network. Cool, I've totally scored. And then as soon as they try to access the FTP server, they're busted. So this is more of a warning that someone is after you than a diagnostic tool to tell you exactly who it is. So of course there's other tools you could use, like, over here. Like the Andromeda deauthor is one thing that you can put a directional antenna on and start tracking down an individual like MAC address, for example, if you wanted to do that. But yeah, so we only went so far as just causing it to trigger and alert you when someone's poking around the Wi-Fi. And this question is related to the way that it's basically constructed. So this, as a honeypot, is a bodge of 2 projects. One of them is a default Arduino library example. So this is literally when you install the library, this program is pre-installed with it. And it's like, hey, if you want to build a NAT router, here's the code for it. You can just customize it however you want. So that was part 1. And then part 2 was a pre-existing ESP Canary library somebody had built that just sends a request out and handles it very nicely. So Stefan and I was just like, hey, Stefan, like, you want to make this thing with me? This is what it should do, and these are the 2 projects, and this is where it should go. Because I tried kind of pasting them together, and it just, like, would not compile properly. So he put, like, you know, like, just pasted it together where it seemed to make sense, didn't run into any errors, and exported it. And the result was something that actually worked and combined both projects. Now, if I was going to go back and rewrite the ESP Canary library, and instead provide like the MAC address of the device that had triggered it, yes, I would totally do that. But because I didn't actually write the library and I didn't actually write the example, this is just something I was like, hey, these 2 things would work better together. Yeah. These are just a combination of 2 other people's libraries. And of course, I hope I gave them appropriate credit for that.
And then when you throw in the canary token, it's like you're juggling 3 different things.
No, that's the second one. So
the second?
it's the NAT router and the canary token.
Okay, I think
The
this
FTP
was...
canary token.
Yeah, but then you also have to have the FTP
No,
honeypot.
that's the same library.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the person who made the FTP honeypot library basically made it so that it runs the FTP and it triggers the canary token all in one library. You can install an Arduino in a couple of clicks. So that's why I love it, because like really there's very few requirements here for you to get set up. You can just do it with just by installing the right library and installing the ESP8266 in Arduino and have this really cool honeypot token. Now, a little bit of background information. It doesn't work exactly the way I was hoping it does. And in fact, the original version doesn't even work exactly the way I was hoping it would. So I was hoping you would be able to brute force this with Hydra and get the right password and then log in and trigger the canary token. But in my test, it does not actually work that way. So some of the examples I wanted to do teaching Hydra and stuff just frankly like will not work on this because of some irregularities. I also found out that if you run an Nmap scan with a brute forcing script, so if you didn't know, Nmap allows you to run scripts, and one of them is FTP brute forcing. It will literally crash the microcontroller, like hard crash it, like over and over and over. Something about the way it's hitting it with packets causes this little thing to freak out and die. So
its little brain gets overwhelmed.
Yeah, so like we put the project together. It works for like what we intended it for, but some of the extra stretch goals, like making it work with like Hydra as a demonstration of brute forcing and other stuff, like that is still in the works. So we still have some work to do on that, because again, this is just putting two people's projects together and getting it to work well enough that it does at least one thing well. So it doesn't do all the bells and whistles stuff I was kind of hoping it would, and that's one reason why we haven't modified it too much, because I'm afraid of breaking it even more. But yeah, this is a really cool project. I noticed that it's gotten like almost 40,000 views on Hack5 in like a week or so. So it's really great to see people enjoying this as well, because I love honeypots. I think they're so cool and interesting. And if people want to expand on this, modify it, improve it, again, these are two basic example sketches we put together to do a very basic thing. If you want to go crazy with it and have it like grab the MAC address or like phish them and get the user agent, or redirect them to like a canary token link and get their like more information about like their cellular data IP address, if you can like cut the data connection like as it's redirecting and force them to go over cellular data, you could maybe find out more information about who had connected to the honeypot. But for now, it's more of a trigger like, hey, someone's attacking your stuff, time to start taking some security precautions, change your password, lock stuff down, rather than like, that's the guy. You know, if you really wanted to, I guess you could just have like a bunch of these in like a circle, and then like have it detect like the signal strength on one side and be like, all right, the guy's over to the right. But you know, it's
like
really
a direction finding thing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but it really, like, you know, that was not the project.
Usually that's time of arrival and like signal strength and
whatever,
stuff.
nerd.
Okay, but anyway, moving on.
So I mean, but most of the questions are going to be, at least from the show, have been about this project. So if you have any about it, we're probably going to be talking about it a lot.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it in that topic area.
Right,
okay,
cool.
Would we consider doing a microcontroller giveaway, maybe an Andromeda D author?
Andromeda D author? Never. Just because those are now rare boards. I don't think Stefan is going to be producing too many more of them before going on to like a new idea. But again, check in with him if you want to be able to learn more about that. So we only have a very limited stock of them, and probably not going to give those away, but we have a number of new projects that I'm working on, and some of those probably will entail releases of new like prototypes and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, then yeah, we probably will do a giveaway of some sort, but I guess we have to figure out what the game is for it, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
and also I think there is still the potential to give away Verona swag.
Oh yes, there definitely is.
That we could work on. Okay. I want you to post a video about how to make an evil twin attack with a captive portal. Manual attack without using Armageddon. The redirection part when someone connects is kind of complicated.
We did that. Yeah, Stefan and I did that. So one of the things that's available in the V3, the new D-Author, which runs on an ESP8266, is the ability to create a captive portal AP. So basically the scenario would be this. You have a target that's on a Wi-Fi network, and you want to be able to take over their data connection and maybe steal a password. So in this case, let's say that we just want to be able to get the password to the network that they're currently connected to. All right, so my workflow would be first spam them with 100 different open Wi-Fi networks and see if they've ever connected to one of them before. Once I know one of the networks that's saved on their phone that they trust, I would kick them off of the network they're currently connected to, create an access point using the same name as the network they've connected to in the past, so their device will automatically switch over to it without telling them or asking them, and then pop up a phishing page that says, this network is currently undergoing an update and requires a password to restore internet access. Please enter the Wi-Fi network password to proceed, and they will not be able to get internet access again until they do that. Now that's if I want like an automatic like switcheroo where I just want it to pop up on their phone without them interacting. I can also block their internet connection and pop up a network that looks like the same name as the previous one but has no password, and they'll probably just click on it to figure out what's going on once their internet connection gets cut. All that is totally possible on the new version of the V3 Deauthor. I put some work into it myself on kind of designing the way that it would look and what the page should look like. So if you want to see a very basic example of a phishing page that tries to get, it's currently providing to be like a Netgear router, but you could obviously customize this if you want to look like any sort of page, and I think that's super cool. So yes, it's currently possible to do this on a microcontroller, and we've demonstrated this a couple times as a Wi-Fi phishing attack tool, which I think is really cool.
I'm trying to find the video. I don't remember what that video was titled, but if you go through and watch the Andromeda Deauthor and V3 Deauthor videos, you'll see all that in action, especially the more recent ones.
Yeah, no, I'm really proud of that feature. I think it's super cool because previously you had to go through a lot of different steps in AirGetIn to get something popped up and essentially do the same thing. The advantage with AirGetIn is, or some of the other tools that try to do these phishing attacks, is like it looks better, like the phishing pages look a little bit better, but you could customize this and work on it as well to just look a lot more, I guess, accurate. And there's some other really cool features like being able to detect the manufacturer of the device. So, you know, if it's like an Aris router versus a Netgear router, you could customize your phishing page if you wanted to do that. So,
okay.
Oh, sorry. There was actually one question that was asked by Victor in the beginning, and that was thoughts on Pegasus.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what that is.
That's the NSO group malware that was just found all over the world.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Your thoughts?
What?
Comments?
You don't know anything about that?
I didn't read about that. I've been busy.
Okay, all right. Well, if you were not under a rock, and we'll probably cover this more on our news segment on Friday, there have been a lot of news stories about malware vendors who are selling to governments who have extremely questionable human rights records and that are actively going against human rights defenders, journalists, presidents, like very
didn't we
important
talk
people.
about that on the last news stream?
So the story was just kind of beginning to break on the last news stream.
Yeah.
But basically,
I just didn't remember the name.
Like, if you are a security researcher and you have questionable ethics and you discover a 0-day vulnerability that allows you to break into someone's phone, into someone's email, especially someone's phone, that's what they really like, then you can either turn it in to Google or Apple or whoever's hardware it's focused on, and get like a little pat on the back and like a little bit of money, or you can go to one of these vendors of basically cyber weapons, and they will take it, weaponize it, and give you $1 million because they can turn around and sell it for $15 million to all of their various sketchy clients. So there's been a lot of activity around getting around export controls and being able to sell this sort of stuff to people who absolutely abuse it in some of the most horrific ways. So this is the stories that have been breaking about this are just kind of bringing to light how if you can get paid a lot of money for finding a problem and then not doing the right thing and turning it in and make everybody's security better, there's a dark marketplace or like a black market here where people can take this sort of 0-day, make an absolute ton of money by causing effects that they don't really care about across the world.
Is it really even a black market though? Because
yes.
So is it illegal for them to do that?
So it depends on what country you live in, and
Right.
it depends on a lot of things. But generally, if you find a vulnerability, weaponize it and use it to break into the computers of journalists.
Yeah.
Depending on where you are along that chain, you're kind of deferring responsibility. But I mean, like morally, you're certainly responsible.
Right. I'm not.
And then when it
debate
comes
that.
to like possibly being seen as facilitating a crime, absolutely, depending on what those people do with it.
Yeah.
Because you're not totally divorcing yourself from responsibility when you pass it on to a group that may end up like killing someone with it.
Right.
So, yeah, this has been a huge story. If you haven't tuned into it, it's it's really worth seeing what the dark side of cybersecurity is all about and what the future will probably hold for people who are extremely talented but maybe not so morally focused on doing good in the world with their skills. So if all you are looking for is money and you don't care that it might kill innocent people that are trying to make the world a better place, then selling malware and cyber weapons to sketchy regimes is a great way to make money. But unfortunately, it also makes the rest of us hackers look pretty bad because it makes us look like we just want money and don't care about doing the right thing. So
Yeah.
So my thoughts on Pegasus are it sucks. Like selling, it's the same feeling I have for the kind of people who sell products to like stalk your spouse or your children. Like the kind of people who are just like catch your cheating spouse by stalking their every move. If you are installing malware on your spouse's devices and stuff, you need to leave. Like, so things are already bad enough that you've completely lost the trust, and you're not only probably violating laws, you are violating like your partner's trust to the point that like you should not be in a relationship with them. This goes even more so when you're like selling malware to a country that has horrific human rights abuses. So I really think that it all kind of falls in the same vein. Typically, like stalkerware, as it's called, which is like as soon as like the exploits get stale and they don't work against every phone anymore, or they take more steps or something, then they get kind of sold down to a lower market that trickles down to you and me. They become accessible to people like a jealous or crazy partner or a family member who's like gone off the deep end or something like that, where they can install this stuff on your device, track you, like look through your phone and do all sorts of stuff because there is a market for that. And these exploits are not as powerful as the ones that are being used by like NSO Group and other sorts of groups, but they are still enough of a problem that there's a lot of people who are victimized by this sort of thing. So I think doing the proper like disclosure procedure, making sure these things get fixed, like that is the right thing to do. And these people are basically making a huge profit by knowingly going against the right thing to do. Because it's connected to like sort of like no, I'm not going to get into like the whole background of it, but yeah, this is a huge news story. We're going to be talking more about it, and it has implications for everyday people because if you think that, oh, I'll never be targeted by this stuff, well, have you ever made someone mad? Do they have $100? Like sometimes these pieces of malware.
Okay, that's the question I have. Is it really that low cost?
Yes.
Because I always think of these things as, oh, well, that's something only a nation state could afford to buy.
No, stalkerware is a huge problem. It's an absolutely huge problem.
Sorry, I was thinking more about the 0-day stuff when I said that.
No. So these are exploits that might take more energy to do, but if someone has alone time with your phone, then they could absolutely do this. And again, this is partners. Like people who are stalking their children, like anybody who has access to your phone or has access to like your stuff, like could potentially install something like this because companies have made it really easy because there's crazy people who want to stalk their spouses and stuff. So this market, they're connected. Like it's basically the same fundamental practice of instead of fixing stuff, turning it in for money so that it can be abused and weaponized and turned against other people.
So what's the solution there? Do we just pay more in bug bounties?
I think that if governments want there to be an incentive to fix critical things that have to do with infrastructure and stuff like that, they need to provide some sort of incentive. And there needs to be some sort of clear rules for disclosure that are not just totally like, totally like up to every individual company, because sometimes companies are not equitable with the way that they fix stuff because they're more worried about PR or they're more worried about the impact of the disclosure than they are of the actual problem. So making sure that researchers are rewarded for their good work and that those fixes are applied in a timely manner, I think that it would be nice to have some help with that, because that's currently a problem, and it's part of what's fueling people to go over and sell these sorts of exploits to people who will give them a bunch of money but then turn around and do horrible things with it.
Okay, let's see. For the person who started on Try Hack Me, the next thing you could try is Hack the Box. I was also thinking we might do a live stream, not doing particular challenges, but just doing a roundup of all the various intentionally vulnerable websites. So if you want to if y'all want to see that, let me know, and I'll try to get that together.
So there's a good question. Can you deauth Bluetooth?
I don't think so.
Why?
Because, well, there's probably something in the, not algorithm, but in the protocol that allows you to force disconnect. I do know it jumps around frequencies and stuff, so it would be probably a little harder to stick with it especially if you're not paired to the device. But like Bluetooth is definitely one of those areas that I feel like could be investigated and have a lot more research. A lot of the wireless research tends to focus on like Wi-Fi, and there's a lot less research into Bluetooth. And I do think we should see more of that. But it's such a low range like protocol, and it's a little trickier than Wi-Fi that we just don't see a ton of research. Do you have a more definitive answer?
Yes.
Okay.
So Bluetooth is much more difficult to de-authenticate or jam effectively because partially what Michael said, it uses frequency hopping. So instead of staying on a single channel the way that Wi-Fi does, it jumps around to a bunch of randomized frequencies, and in order to know where it's going to go next, you basically need to be present when the devices are paired. So Bluetooth works in a way where when you pair a device, unless somebody is sitting around watching, the information needed to encrypt all packets between like the source and the client are encrypted from the start. So if you happen to be there and see that exchange, you're good. Like then you can start messing with Bluetooth. But if they have already exchanged the information about what frequencies they're hopping to and like the keys to pair and everything, then it's very difficult to, first of all, even like block the signal because it's hopping around everywhere. And second, because the management frames are not exposed the way that they are with Wi-Fi networks, it makes it a much more difficult attack surface. So Bluetooth is much harder to de-authenticate than Wi-Fi is because Wi-Fi has exposed management frames you can just spoof and say, hey, disconnect, and it will actually do it, which is kind of stupid and amazing. But Bluetooth doesn't do that. So because of that, there probably are some ways to de-authenticate it, but they're not nearly as straightforward as the ways that are available for Wi-Fi, and that's why.
And someone else mentioned RFID. It's kind of interesting to me because I feel like Bluetooth is in that gray area where there's so little research. Like I feel like RFID has a lot more research in it because people recognize that it's used for access control systems a lot and stuff like that. So there's a lot of research into cloning them and doing those sorts of attacks. But Bluetooth is just in that gray area where people care about it, but they just I feel like there's probably some Bluetooth researcher out there doing a lot of stuff that I just don't know.
Can I ask a question? Can you create a tutorial on how to make a backdoor? On what? Like a Linux computer, a Windows computer, what version of Windows, a Mac OS computer? In general, do you want like a Netcat backdoor? Yes, we can. We've got to be a little bit more specific because like getting a reverse shell so that we can start like puppeting the computer, like I guess we could do that. But yeah, if you have something more specific you're looking for, please let us know because yes, we'll absolutely do that. Netcat backdoors don't work as well as they used to, so I might need to get a little bit more creative with that. But definitely we can do something like that.
Cody, have you heard of the Don't F with Cats OSINT investigation, which is on Netflix?
Yes, it's pretty upsetting to watch. Just a warning for people who are triggered by animal abuse. But yes, it is definitely a powerful kind of like internet investigation style documentary. Again, very upsetting to watch though.
This is one we frequently answer, but we can give the short version of it. How do we approach learning hacking, and how would you suggest getting started, basically?
Yeah, so if you have any skills from a previous career or a previous job, see if there is a cybersecurity version of that or a cybersecurity job that relies on those skills that will make you more money, especially if you like those skills or you can lean into them. I find that if you do, for example, if you're a salesperson or if you're a marketing person or if you are someone who does business admin processes, like being in cybersecurity will just add a bunch of money to your salary. So that's a good place to start if you already have a career. If you don't already have a career, then getting started in cybersecurity basically is a huge field where you can pick your own adventure and end up at a career you really like, but only if, I feel like anyway, you try a couple different parts of it and see which ones really resonate with you. I ended up deciding not to be like a network engineer or an analyst or whatever. I decided that I like talking to people, I like building things, I like communicating science and cybersecurity. So my job is in creating content and effectively doing marketing. Because I am getting people aware of cybersecurity. I'm trying to help educate them. So cybersecurity education is often classified under marketing, which is not the way I expected to go when I got into cybersecurity. But I really like it because I don't think I would really like doing the same job over and over and over in any particular role. And this gives me a lot of flexibility. So if you are somebody who really loves networking, then there's lots of different roles starting with learning networking and maybe taking like a routing and switching class to get started. If you really like computer science and you like math, then you can definitely get started in the computer science realm and look at exploits and starting to do reverse engineering. Like these are things that make good amount of money and they're really fun. And I know a lot of people who really enjoy doing it. So again, it really depends on what kind of stuff keeps you up at night. If you really want to dig into Python programming, you think it's the coolest thing ever, then great. Like learn APIs and start working with bug bounties. Find ways to use your passion to force yourself to learn and get better at a skill that's going to directly make you money. If you can do that, then I think you'll find a job you're happy with in cybersecurity. My advice is to not shoehorn yourself into something you think is cybersecurity, because there's so many different definitions and there's so many different jobs that if you put yourself into like, you're just like, damn, well, I guess I have to be a reverse engineer. It's like, no, you don't. Like, if you don't like that, you can stay within cybersecurity and maybe be like a hardware person that works with microcontrollers. I went in thinking I wanted to learn computer science and very quickly learned that I really actually like electrical engineering and I like working with microcontrollers and building prototypes. It's like magic to me. And I never would have known that if I hadn't tried out a couple different things and found out that I actually like networking more than computer science and electrical engineering more than either. So yeah, my advice is do not lock yourself into your definition of cybersecurity without trying out a couple different things, and focus on the stuff that you stay up at night anyway, learning and trying to get better at. Yeah,
that's the thing I would hammer home, is just find a project you're passionate about and use that as your motivation to learn the tools to do that, and then ta-da. Okay. Would we do more ransomware videos on, particularly on Windows machines? We don't have a ton of in-house experience with Windows. We do have a live stream we did a while back on ransomware and how it's made. We did Python. And then also we did a live stream with Killian about a ransomware attack on a Windows machine. But we don't have any current plans to make more videos like that, but that is definitely something, if you want to give us some resources, we could try to prepare something on.
All right, this is a great question. I saw on the news that Pegasus was able to send a payload by either a missed call or something like that. Can you please enlighten me? Yes, because I looked this up and it was really interesting. So the NSO group was offering either a 0-click or a 1-click exploit. So basically you would have a target and you would either, if you paid the big bucks, you would have a 0-click exploit. And if you're being a little stingy, then you would get the 1-click exploit. So let me explain the difference. The 1-click exploit is like a news article link where the website has a 0-day and the target has to click on the link in order to be infected. The 0-click method means that they're abusing like an MMS feature that automatically opens a website when you provide it with a certain link. So what they were doing is abusing a built-in feature of messaging that automatically opens a web page. And because that web page was infected, it means that it would automatically infect the phone, even if they didn't open the message.
That's really sneaky.
Right, but they had to be very careful about this, because if they did it too much, it was going to get blown, and that feature was going to get shut down. So that's why I assume anyway they were only doing this for a subset of clients, or charging like a lot more, because if everybody was using this feature, it would mean that eventually like carriers and everyone would just shut it down completely. So it's already been shut down, or at least this feature is starting to be blocked by more and more carriers. So it's not as viable of an exploit as it was before, but still a really interesting kind of look into the way that these sorts of exploits are marketed, because they didn't want to burn their very best one by having it be used for everyone. So they just jacked up the price to make it much more expensive, so that they wouldn't be detected for longer.
Victor asks, is it possible to use an ESP8266 to make a sort of check-in device? Someone comes near the microcontroller and it sends you a notification, X person has arrived. Yes, we have a video on that. Alex Lynn made that exact thing. What did he call that one? That's not
Probe Hunter.
The Probe Hunter.
Well, or ESP bug, actually.
It's the ESP bug, and that is on the Hack 5 channel that you can watch at. That was a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, it does exactly what you described.
And actually a lot more. So that actually has like a web interface, and it connects to Wi-Fi and like publishes to a database. I think for what you're asking, there's actually literally an Arduino like example sketch. I think it's called Proximity or something like that that allows you to scan the signal of devices nearby and then tell you when a certain one is within range. So we've done this on Nullbyte. We've also, so it was also really cool to see it as an Arduino default sketch. So yeah, if you're getting started with this sort of thing and you want to just look up whether or not someone's already done it, highly recommend you check out Arduino default sketches. They really have a ton of interesting programs in there that you can modify and tweak and try out just to get started. And this is one that I believe is already covered and is a super cool way to get started sensing devices and telling if someone's in proximity to it. Again, this is very, very general though. Like it's not super precise because this is an omnidirectional antenna and it's kind of shaped in a funky way. So there could be like areas around that get like worse signal, and so you can't really use it for absolute positioning or anything, but you definitely can use it to know when something gets much closer than it was before.
And then I just dropped the link for the video.
Oh, yes. Cool.
Okay, shall we go back to the...
Yeah, let's do another one from the channel.
Sorry. Okay, can it be battery powered and not connected to a host computer? And this is the ESP honeypot.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, if you wanted to make this sucker solar powered, you could go for it. You know, like this is such a small low power device that one application I was talking about for it is an IoT hub where it just connects back to a regular network and you can have your IoT devices and stuff connected to it if they don't require a lot of data, if they're just sensors and stuff. It should work just fine, and it would also let you know if someone is, you know, messing with Wi-Fi networks, because it would be out there and it would be much stronger than your indoor Wi-Fi network, at least presumably. So if somebody was looking for a Wi-Fi network to attack, they would probably go after that one first. Yeah. So yeah, you could definitely put it outdoors. Again, you could make it solar powered. There's boards for the ESP8266 that let you charge a LiPo battery and the via solar and then discharge it at night. So yeah, you could totally get as crazy as you want with having this be off the grid and stuff. That being said, I have no idea why you would do that. It's a very low power device. You could just plug it in next to your router or whatever, but you know, whatever suits your fancy.
The idea I really like is like a Wi-Fi throwy. So basically just take like 2 AA batteries and just wire it to the ESP to power it, and then you can just toss it anywhere, and it's basically disposable. It would be like less than $5 altogether.
Okay, why though?
So like if you wanted to go to a specific area and be like, okay, are there hackers in this area? Would be a sort of defensive way to do that. And that area could be somewhere where you know, maybe, yeah.
I mean, I guess one example would be if there was a Wi-Fi network where you knew the password and you just wanted to be chaotic, you could just program it to connect back to it and create an open access point.
Well, I'm trying
and then you would be basically allowing everybody on the street access to the Wi-Fi network through the ESP. Slow access, but you know, still access.
I'm trying to avoid gray and black hat uses of a Wi-Fi throwy, but I think that's where more of the use case would be. Okay, so next question. How I mod this to work with my web hosting. So can you do any kind of like web hosting or web monitoring, I guess, of the ESP honeypot?
Yes, well, not on this project. So there is another ESP8266 honeypot project, which actually looks pretty cool, which creates, I believe, like a HTTP page with a login. So I don't know what the login page looks like exactly, but I believe it's supposed to look like, you know, or like a router login page or something like that. I don't think that this particular version acts as its own access point. I think it connects back to your access point. But it does offer up like a web server and allows you to monitor people trying to log into that. Now that being said, like I think that more hackers would go after a service like FTP or something like that. Although I guess more script kiddies and people who don't know about technology would just go to like a random website that's like exposed on you know, an access point.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's like generic FTP honeypots if you want to like install them on your website or like on your server somewhere, is that you can just do that. The ESP. The particular use here is more for like people that would be a little more local, I think.
Here's a question. What's your favorite OS?
I think Parrot OS looks pretty.
You like Parrot OS? What a loser. You like bright and shiny colors?
Yes, I like bright and shiny colors.
Wow, all right. Well, my favorite would have to be Manjaro because it's Arch. So just so you guys know.
Isn't Arch like really hard?
I run Arch. No, it's not hard. I mean, only for like babies that like run like Parrot Security OS or something. You know,
what a security snob.
No, so I'm just kidding. Like in general, like Parrot Security OS and Kali are pretty on par with their quality. I'd say Parrot actually has more things installed If you like a more beautiful experience, or as Michael does, bright and shiny colors, then Paired Security OS is probably better. But honestly, you probably get better beginner support on Kali Linux. That being said, I really enjoy the experience with Manjaro. After we did our testing out various HackerOS series, I started running Manjaro on the Raspberry Pi, and it actually runs like a dream. It crashes a little bit less than Kali Linux did on it, so I've been running Manjaro on the Raspberry Pi 400 for like a good several months now, and it's been, I'm not going to say more stable than Kali Linux, but it feels more stable than Kali Linux. So yeah, I really like Manjaro. It's probably my favorite Linux system. I use macOS a lot because it's very Linux-like, and I can do most of the things I need to do, excluding like Wi-Fi hacking on a macOS machine. And I have people that will buy it for me because I do this show. So because someone else usually buys my computer when I'm doing work stuff, macOS works just fine because, again, you can do a lot of the Linux stuff you would need to do that just does not work on Windows. That being said, I hate Windows subsystem Linux. Like Windows Linux subsystem, whatever. I hate that. We've tried it out. It sucks. You can't do any interesting stuff on it as far as I'm concerned. So like if I'm on a Windows computer, I'm just running a virtual machine that's Linux, like full on, because like what's offered on it just doesn't let me do most of what I need to do. As opposed to macOS that has Homebrew and some other projects that make it easier to install Linux programs that exist on like every other Linux distribution. You can usually install them via Homebrew if you really need to. So I would say for full-on Linux Manjaro, for just a general use computer where I need commercial software to be compiled for it, macOS.
Okay. Let's go back to these questions, just because they're all on the same topic.
Hey, wait, hold on. Hey guys, got my evil twin attack Python script working. Thanks to your advice, I'm trying to implement DNS spoofing instead of implementing SSL stripping. That's because SSL stripping's hard. DNS spoofing is much easier and still works for some reason. So unless someone's started doing like DNS over HTTPS or something like that, then yeah, this still works. You can just swap out which website they're redirected to. And especially if you register a website with a very similar looking domain, if you're going after someone that's targeted and specific, then like boom, like it's just as easy as that. So yeah, SSL stripping's hard. I haven't had a lot of success with it. So if you know of a great SSL stripping tool and you're in the chat, please shout it out, because I would also love to know about it and maybe do some guides. Because for now, I just do DNS spoofing because it's a lot easier.
Okay, so back to the question I was going to say. So with the honeypot video, you're saying when a hacker triggers the canary token, you can see their IP address. But isn't that IP address that you just gave them because you're giving them internet access?
Yes. So if you wanted to then trace it down, you could just go to the access point and look at who's connected, and that will give you the MAC address as well. So because the original library that we're relying on just looks for the IP address, unless you want to go under the hood and actually change that library to do the MAC address instead, which I agree, I think you should. I just don't have time to do that because I have 10 other presentations I'm planning. So, you know, like if you want to go under the hood and change that to the MAC address, I think it would genuinely be a better tool. But for now, because like some of the other FTP stuff isn't working exactly as designed and it's just kind of doing the bare minimum to function and work, I wasn't too enthusiastic to go in there and start, you know, mucking up the works and start changing stuff. So if you know a little bit more about C++ or Arduino and you want to go in there and make this look for the MAC address instead, I think it would be a better version. I will merge that pull request. Like, let me know, do it, because I think it would be genuinely better.
Okay. The next question we had, again on the same video, is, so how would you actually use this to track down who's like trying to hack your Wi-Fi? And then like, what would you do legally? Like, what do you do? Okay, I found this person on my Wi-Fi trying to hack it. What do I do now?
Yeah, so let's say that I am sitting in my house, I have this canary token set up as an outside access point, and all of a sudden,
Bing, bing, bing.
I get an email that's like, your canary token's been accessed. It's like, who the hell is in my FTP server? So I get up, I grab, you know, an Andromeda deauthor or a ESP8266 that allows me to have a directional antenna on it, and I can, on my computer, join the access point, look and see who's connected right now, get the MAC address, and put it into the Andromeda deauthor, and or you know whatever other device allows me to have a directional antenna, and then start looking for signal strength. So all I really need to do is sweep around with the directional antenna, and I'll be able to see the source of the signal, where it's coming from. So if it's my neighbor right over here, or if it's a van right there, I would probably record some packets in Wireshark to make sure I had evidence that like this MAC address and this device was there. And then I would just like knock on the van and be like, excuse me, Mr. Officer, like I need you to please stop accessing this without a warrant. Like it's just not fair to waste government resources on this. Like, and I need you to move along. Or, you know, whoever else it was. Let's say that it was I don't know, like an angry neighbor that wants free Wi-Fi, whatever.
Evil neighbor.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, whichever. But yeah, so like once you had identified the source of the attack and also identified that they had improperly accessed the computer network, like I would first try to give them a warning and let them know that this is illegal. Like I have evidence you've done this. I know that you were the one doing it, and like I can currently see that this is pinging off of your device that you're holding right there. Like so, you know, if it's a smartphone or if it's another device that you can just like see them holding and be like, this is the device. It says right here it's a Samsung phone, or it says it's like a you know, an Apple computer. Like it's clear that you have an Apple device right here. Like the signal's coming from here. Like I would try to give them a warning first, but if they don't listen to it, or if you feel like it's really like a serious malicious attack, then record the evidence that you can and yeah, contact law enforcement. Because if someone's persistently breaking into your stuff, first, of course, you should go through the process of changing all your passwords and hardening your security, doing increased monitoring if you know that you're at risk and you're being targeted. But really, again, this is the canary in the coal mine to let you know, like, hey, something's up, you're being targeted, and your first sensor has been triggered by somebody like breaching the perimeter.
Okay.
But I also have to say, I just got like a out of the blue email from David, who also works at Varonis, who's just like, back in the day, like I used to work with honeypots on Raspberry Pis, and they were pretty cool. Can you still do that? And it's just like, let's get smaller. Like, let's see, like a Raspberry Pi. Like, I'll take that challenge. Like, let's see if we can take a $35 honeypot and make it into a $3 honeypot. So, like, I'm pretty proud of the fact that, like, someone from our company was just like, hey, like, this stuff was awesome. Like, can you, like, check this out and see if it's, like, still, if it's gotten better, if it's gotten worse. It's like, it's actually gotten way better, and I just hadn't thought about it for a while. So, shout out to David for suggesting us kind of checking this out and using it as a topic, because I think a lot of people could benefit from having, like, a little device like this that's just watching out for them and letting them know if someone starts poking around their Wi-Fi network that they thought was secure. Because you never know. Like, there's always settings, or there's maybe that password was reused somewhere else and got breached. You know, maybe someone else had the exact same thought for a password and they got breached. It's not even your fault. It happens.
Okay. So if people don't want to be a script kiddie anymore, what recommendations do you have for them?
Don't commit any crimes. And then I would just say, if you want to get more serious about cybersecurity, you need to educate yourself and find the parts that you're most passionate about. So expose yourself to networking, expose yourself to Python programming, expose yourself to, you know, understanding tools like Metasploit and using Linux. And those, I would say those three things will kind of give you an initial taste of what it's going to be like to be technical in cybersecurity. If you have a passion for some other thing, though, again, it could be marketing, sales, like it could be science communication, whatever it is, you can combine that with cybersecurity, and you might not need to get super technical. So yeah, I would say just find the part of cybersecurity you really resonate with and focus on that, because you will advance more quickly in something that you don't have to push yourself to study.
Yep. Okay. Can we do a reaction video on Mr. Robot? We have done 1 or 2 scenes from Mr. Robot in our 2 reaction videos, but in the very near future, you will have a reaction video exclusively on Mr. Robot.
Yes. So we have heard you guys. A lot of people have requested a Hackers React video featuring scenes from Mr. Robot. So I believe we're going to try to get Nick to come on and do a reaction with that. So yeah, we should have a good old null byte roundup.
If y'all have a specific scene that y'all want a reaction to, please drop it in the comments below, a YouTube link to that video, and I will make sure it gets included, because I have been looking through Mr. Robot and trying to find the scenes that we want to react to. Okay, onward and upward. Oh yeah, so this was the Pegasus question. I guess we already answered that.
Well, what was it? Any word about yeah. We've gone over this one in detail, but again, a really good question, because that is certainly the topic of the hour.
Yeah. Parrot is so good and better than Kali. We need more tutorials.
Preaching to the choir over here. You got Michael's number. When was the last time you touched a Parrot OS system?
Don't try to make me...
Was it like
I'm the video person, you're the hacker
6
person.
months ago? 9 months ago?
It's been within the year.
Okay, all right. So yeah, again, I think that Parasecurity OS has more tools than Kali Linux, and a lot of them are more bleeding edge. So if you have a favorite project that's up and coming, it's much more likely to be pre-installed in Parasecurity OS than it is in Kali Linux. That being said, there's much better support for Kali Linux because it's been around for longer. There's a larger community, and if you're a beginner, I just recommend getting started with it first. But if you like to mix things up, if you like to make it spicy, then like you can definitely go with Parasecurity OS, and you'll find that maybe the documentation isn't as good or thorough for every problem you might run into, which might baffle you. But because it's based off of Debian, it's really familiar to people who have worked with Kali Linux, and it feels like a new system without requiring you to actually like learn like a new package manager or something. Going over to Manjaro was a little jarring because like it can use a different package manager and there's other major differences, but I enjoy the experience more. So, again, each to their own, but I think Parasecurity and Kali are very much on par with each other, and I couldn't really pick between the two, except I would just say that Parasecurity OS is a little bit better for bleeding edge tools. They accept some tools that like kind of suck maybe a little bit right now, but are getting better, and I really like that they're that active in the community.
Are there any OSs that we still need to do? I think we've done most.
We've done
OS.
so many operating systems. We even did Temple OS, you guys. So if you have more ideas for operating systems, please throw it at us. But we've tried to do a couple that were like under development. Or there was one suggestion where it literally was just like alpha is closed, and we're like, okay. So and it's like you cannot download this operating system. It's like, damn, fine. Like I didn't even want to.
Okay. Our final question that we have from the pre-prepared ones is, it's into the regards to the Wi-Fi duck. Can I use an ESP8266 for this attack? Like the Wi-Fi duck includes an ESP8266, right?
Yeah. So 50% yes, 50% no. So in order to do a Wi-Fi duck attack, which a Wi-Fi duck is a like a bad USB device that pretends to be a keyboard as soon as it's plugged in. Now the difference is that the Wi-Fi duck allows you to have access point control. So there's two different ways you can do this. You can either write a script and put it on the Wi-Fi duck, and then as soon as it's plugged in, have a script running on your computer that just sends it which command to run, or you can log into the access point. It pops up like a menu, and you can either write a script manually or select from any number of saved scripts as soon as it's plugged into the target computer. Really, really cool. Now, it relies on 2 microcontrollers to do this. One of them is, I think, the ATmega34U?
Yeah, it's like that tiny little rectangle.
Something like that. It's a SparkFun Pro Micro,
Yeah.
basically is what we use for that. And that is soldered to a PCB, which on the other side has a D1 Mini microcontroller, which is an ESP8266. So those two together, the SparkFun Pro Micro works as the USB device, so it pretends to be the keyboard, and then the D1 Mini provides the access point, the hotspot, and also allows you to control the other microcontroller remotely. So it's really cool and simple design. You're basically just sticking 2 microcontrollers on either side of a PCB. The problem is if you solder it together wrong, it's impossible to complete. And I have done this many times. So we offer these for sale on our site. I think they're available on hack.k. But every time someone orders one, I just like have to like put on some music and like calm myself down and try to do it in the right order, because I've ruined so many of these by soldering them so that I can't get to the final pins that I need to solder. But it's a really cool project, and it's very simple to make yourself if you ever wanted to just do it, because we also just sell like the printed circuit boards if you just wanted to grab one and get your own components. So yeah, really, really cool. I like it so much better than the original just because you can trigger it from Wi-Fi. The only thing I wish it had is maybe like the ability to add like a mouse jiggler to like keep computers unlocked or something, but can't have everything.
Okay. Which is a safer device, an Android or an iPhone?
Neither.
Sorry.
Like at this point, Apple devices have been so thoroughly targeted that like I think it would be probably slightly easier to exploit an Android device than an Apple device, but both are just so targeted at this point that neither one is safe. Like, following Patrick Wardle really made me realize there's a lot of malware out there for Apple devices. So I would say probably neither, unfortunately. We do have another question about operating systems. What about Bootskidor OS? It won't be maintained anymore, but it was great to look around. Yes, I loved Bootskidor OS. So for those who don't know Bootskidor, this was an investigation operating system that I used to teach to journalists that would get them started using Linux to use all the tools that they can to stay private and otherwise make sure that they're not leaking any information they don't need to be. So the creator of this, Mike Bazell, decided to change this up, and I do not blame him. Like, maintaining an operating system is a huge task. As one dude, like, it just didn't really make sense to do long term. So now he has like a 3-page long setup process for like building your own image that I cannot stress how much I hate teaching to journalists. Like, it is like so impossible that I have given up.
It's not easy for the layman to learn.
Right. When we're dealing with people that have like been in their careers already for like 25 years, and like know how to use a computer well enough, getting an operating system that's pre-compiled, whatever, like ready to go, just stick it in the virtual machine, that is stretching it. Like, that is pushing it already. So when you have to like check all these boxes and set all these things, and it's like a 20-minute setup process, it sucks for these people, like, because then on top of that they still have to learn all the virtual machine settings and everything. So it's taken like 10 minutes of setup into like a 30-minute sludge fest of just like people having problems that I don't know how to fix. Definitely the state of this has gotten substantially worse. If anybody is looking to start a Linux distribution for journalists and other like OSINT people, there is a huge opening, because I saw this become very, very popular very quickly, and I love teaching it to people because it had so many great features built in that were just not something that many people were aware was out there. So yeah, I do not blame him. Like, I would not want to maintain a Linux operating system for all these people that are doing important jobs. It just like doesn't, it doesn't make sense over a long period of time, but the alternative sucks so much. If anybody knows any like replacements to this or any ways of setting it up that are a little easier, the last time I checked, I do not think I could teach most of the people I teach how to do this. But if anybody else has found like an easier way of doing so, or a setup script, please, then that would be great to know, because I really like Bootskidor. It was a super cool project, and I think that it opened a lot of people's eyes to security and Linux that otherwise never would have got to have that experience.
Okay, we are in the final moments of the live stream, so if you'll have any lingering questions, be sure to drop them in the chat below.
Oh yeah, someone has pointed out that the old Nokia phones are actually the most secure. You're correct. That's what you want to use if you want to stay away from hackers, or if you get mugged and you want to throw it and take the guy out. Like those old Nokias are great for both.
Okay. Persistent or like a USB or VM, which do we prefer to install our OSs on?
Probably a VM. I hate VMs, but I hate USB sticks even more. Like, it depends. Like, if you're talking about booting from a USB stick, that'll work, and I genuinely enjoy running like bare metal if at all possible. But the problem is, like, the USB stick is usually slow, and if you like boink it, then suddenly you don't have the operating system running anymore. Yeah, it's a little sketchy to run off a USB stick. That being said, doing Wi-Fi hacking stuff, especially on a new macOS system and a virtual machine, is an absolute nightmare, and I do not recommend it to anyone. So sometimes like running off of a USB stick will solve those problems, because you're not dealing with the abstraction and all the other stuff that's going on when you have a virtual device connecting to a physical piece of hardware and patching it to a virtual system. It's a lot. Okay,
I'm a student and I can't afford Hack5 products, but I want to use them. What should I do?
There's plenty of open source stuff. Well, okay. I mean, sure. Like, you can always go ahead and buy another product that is a little cheaper. Like, of course, there's some great open source stuff out there. But I would say also, like, you can buy a DigiSpark. And with slightly more effort in the programming part, you can just go ahead and do your own payloads, and you can get a lot of DigiSparks for not very much money. So if you fry a couple, or
they're like less than $1 a piece.
Yeah, they're really, really cheap, especially if you get them on like AliExpress or something. So if you want to start out with something that's kind of like a USB rubber ducky, but requires substantially, well, not substantially, but it requires a bit more work to get set up and programming. That's the trade-off. If you want a cheaper version of it, then you can just spend a little bit more time programming it, and it's not a big deal. We've done multiple guides on getting set up with it, and I think we even have like a Udemy class on getting set up with a bad USB device using a DigiSpark. So I would say, like, yeah, start out with something cheap like the DigiSpark. If you fry it, no big deal. You can buy like 10 of them for $10. Like, it's, it's really cheap. So
and also you can buy like Alpha or Panda Wireless card too, and that'll allow you to do a lot of the things that you're able to do. Oh my god, what do they call the Wi-Fi device? I forget. Anyway, you can do a lot of those. You're just not going to have necessarily the really nice GUI interface or...
not a question, but thank you for the regular content and positive feedback. You guys are great. You guys are great. Like, honestly, through the pandemic, it's been a bummer not being able to go to conferences and talk to people who like this sort of stuff. So it really gives us energy and is really fun to answer your questions, talk to you guys about what you're interested in, and plan new episodes for the rest of the week. So yeah, we love doing this. We'd love the channel to grow even more and get more people interested. It kind of slowed down after we stopped doing like live streams with Nullbyte, since that's now a kind of a derelict project and we don't know what's going to happen with them. But yeah, maybe in the future we can do some with Hack 5 and kind of inject more people into our community. But for now, we're really, really happy with everyone here, and we appreciate all your great questions every week. So yeah, that's why we decided to do the Q&A again. Is this is probably my favorite stream that we do, and your questions are getting better and better each week, so it's very easy to answer them.
And on that note, do we have any announcements in regards to DEF CON and Black Hat?
Well, we already mentioned this last week, but we are not going to be attending this year. For a variety of reasons, mostly just the numbers do not look great in Las Vegas, and we've been very cautious throughout
in
the
regards
pandemic.
to the Delta variant.
Yeah, the COVID numbers in Las Vegas do not look great, and we've done pretty well this pandemic by being very cautious. So, you know, like I am absolutely sick of this stuff, but like I can wait it out if I have to, and I just don't feel like getting sick, you guys. I just don't. It's been too long. So, you know, we're not going to be there in person at DEF CON. Or Black Hat, unfortunately, but we will be trying to do some virtual stuff if we can. So yeah, too bad we won't get to see any of you guys that go there. And if you do go there, please stay safe. You know, it just test positivity in Las Vegas is like 12% and rising, and they have not implemented anything to tamp that down. So with the event only a couple of weeks away, I just don't see how things could get better before then. Yeah. So.
Okay, and that's been today's live stream. I think that's all the time for questions we have.
Are you closing it?
No, you're going to close it.
No, go for it. All right, Sasquatch man.
If you like this content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hack that notification bell. You don't like that one?
No,
and then you can also check out Killian, our other co-host, on the Veronis brand channel, where he does threat update every week. So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for hanging out with us. And yeah, if you have any questions that were not answered on the stream, make sure to drop them on the YouTube channel. We look there every week and round up your questions. So if something comes to mind, or if you missed this and you're just watching it on replay, then yeah. Also, you can check us out on hackingwithfriends.com or the SecurityFWD channel if you want to see more content. We have lots of great stuff, and we'll see you next time. Bye.